Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode with Warren and Julie. We travel the world with our two dogs, trying to see what it's like to live in other countries, other places, and sharing our experiences and expenses with you. And today we're in Budapest, Hungary, and we're visiting with a residency expert. So if you wanted to live in Hungary, stick around and let's see if our friend has the answers for you. Hey everybody, so we're in Budapest, Hungary, and we're sitting with Lazlo Kish, who is a residency expert, but he specializes in residency and citizenship by investment. But we're going to answer a lot of residency questions because he is an expert in this field. So stick around so you can figure out if Hungary might be a right fit for you. Lazlo, if you can give a little bit of background on what you do and the focus of your company and your efforts here.
So I started a group of companies called Crystal Worldwide 30 years ago, and that group offered and still offers international tax planning, international tax structuring type of services. But I got bored after a certain time and I started to investigate, especially in the 1990s where the visa-free travel was a big thing to get for Central European, for Eastern Europeans. And then this is where I started to also offer citizenship and residency by investment solutions. I'm always thinking about the government sanctioned, official, 100% legal type of solutions.
So you're going to have valuable answers for a lot of locations, not just Hungary. If a person was looking for citizenship by investment or permanent residency by investment, you would be able to assist them with other countries?
Definitely. The US also has two types of different visa programs. One is the E2 and the other is the EB5. The EB5 is the green card and the E2 is for just plain business investment. And so certain countries, citizens of certain countries qualify for the E2 visa, which for example, why Grenada in the Caribbean offers the citizenship and people who get it could apply for a business visa in the United States. So we are doing quite a lot of things worldwide, not just the Hungarian type, that is true, yes.
We're going to focus on Hungary today, but if you're interested in basically what's known as the golden visas or citizenship by investment, then Lazlo may be the place for you to contact. Lazlo is a very high caliber professional, and so if you're going to be reaching out to Lazlo, it's going to be a select type of clientele. He's going to answer a lot of broad questions for us today, but not everybody will probably qualify to work with Lazlo, but he's got professionals that he can refer you to if you're in a case that he normally doesn't work with. Is that fair to say?
I think definitely that's the case, yes.
Okay. So your focus here in Hungary is as far as people coming in that want to live in Hungary full time. We know that we have a pensioner visa. So somebody from that's on Social Security in the United States has a capability to come here, as well as there's work visas, and those we'll speak to later because those are the areas that you normally don't always work with, but you work with investments to have a residency here in Hungary is the primary focus in the Hungary market. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. The business visa which we offer as a participation is based on the one very simple fact or idea that the person who applies either with or without a family, Hungarian government doesn't want to be a burden on the economy. So the best way how to prove that in the future that will not be the case is the system, and it works in the way where an income generating property is purchased through a company, which is a Hungarian phone company. The client would be the director of the company, would be entitled with the family members to get residency permit. And the fact that it is a good company, financial statements must be provided and all the facts could be checked by the authorities, and it will be very clear that yes, that person invested enough, pays a small salary as a director for himself, paid the social security, minimum social security contribution, which is by the way like $20 per month for the dependent family members. And then if that is done, then they are not a burden, so all in all, the Hungarian economy welcomes them.
So when you're speaking about having a property to invest in to generate rental income, what is the value of the property that needs to be purchased, or what is the recommended investment?
Currently, the legal minimum is around 180,000 US dollars or euros, which exchange rates are changing obviously all the time, but let's talk about 180,000 euros because Hungary's economy is much more tied to the Eurozone than to the United States, but then the amounts are not that different. So 180,000 euros, 180,000 US dollars, 200,000 US dollars would be enough to make it sure that yes, the whole project is believable to the government, so they would have no problem with issuing a visa to stay in Hungary.
Okay. And that would be a visa for the investor and a spouse and children?
Dependent children, also grandparents, parents who are grandparents on behalf of the children, obviously.
At least our experience so far living here for several weeks, it's much more affordable than the United States. So if Julie and I think if we were living here, if we owned a home, it would probably be very, very simple to survive on $2,000 a month. And if we were renting, maybe $3,000 a month. And so for somebody that's on a Social Security budget, $2,500 for a couple is probably very, very achievable. Or if you're even younger, because of this investment portion, you can come and invest in a property, generate income, and you would recommend from our previous conversation that the person maybe doesn't rent the house, or that it's not the one that they would live in, that they would maybe have a separate home or rent elsewhere, because if they were to live there, they have to pay the fair market rent. Is that right?
Do not forget that the property must be owned by a company, and the reason is, I think I mentioned that yes, it is a verifiable type of income because the financial statements must be provided to the tax return and so on and so on. So if the director of the company lives in the building or in the flat owned by the company, it would be a payment in kind, which is taxable according to Hungarian rules, but I think that applies to nearly all the countries worldwide.
Because you do have to show accounting records to the government showing that you're paying taxes. Correct?
You are generating income,
yes,
and you are paying taxes after what you earn, which is just not the same as, for example, as a minimum salary and so on applying to many people in Hungary. But for example, half of the monthly minimum salary defined by law is enough for the director. So we are not talking about really a huge amount of money. In fact, you are completely right that Hungary is not as expensive as many other European countries, not even talking about the purchasing value of the United States money here and there as a comparison.
If a person wanted to come here and start this process, do they need to start this in their home country to get a visa D, or what would be the step one for somebody to make before they come over here to Hungary and start doing the paperwork to obtain residency through investment?
The answer might be a little bit too legal, but then I have to describe the situation completely as the way as it is. Let's say a US citizen will not need a visa to come to Hungary for travel purposes, meaning that to form the company, to find find the property, and do the background legal type of work with the signatures can be done through that visa. But there is a rule which is quite common in Europe, that if somebody wants to come to Hungary for the express aim of filing for a residency permit, then a special visa needs to be obtained. This visa can be obtained from the Hungarian consulates, either operating in the country of the citizenship of the applicant or the country of residence. So if somebody is a resident of Turkey or somebody is a resident of United Kingdom or wherever they are, and there is a Hungarian consulate there, that they can also apply for the visa, the D visa, and with the D visa application, they could come to Hungary to file the actual application and give the fingerprints and the iris scan.
Oh, excellent. So if you're in Europe already, and you can go to a Hungarian consulate and go there if you have residency in that country. With the investment visa, what are people investing in? What can you give some examples of how they can invest to start their company or their business?
Like in several other countries, it could be residential and commercial property also. Obviously, with the commercial property, nobody lives there, so that certain questions for the payment in kind that will not arise. as an investment amount of 180,000 as an example in Budapest at a better location, not the best because the best are quite expensive like everywhere in the world, but at a good location with not too much of a renovation to be done can be had for approximately 2,500 US dollars per square meter, which means that this 180,000 could be a good value for 60, 70 square meters, 600, 700 square feet residential property. And that property would Hungarian bedrooms are not as big usually. So all in all, we could talk about a 2.5 bedroom, 2 bathroom flat for that amount of money, depending on many circumstances, the exact location, about the quality of the flat, the quality of the building. So all in all, this is the range, which is not so bad, because if somebody wants just to use it for investment purposes, then a 50, 60, 70 square meter flat can be used for Airbnb, and then could house 4, 6, 8 people, depending on again how well it is constructed. And then it could be a seriously good business proposition.
Okay, so you can Airbnb your property as a business here and make that your company basically for your purpose for residency is you have an Airbnb in Budapest.
And I'm sure people are going to want to know, what about full-time renting? Could you just rent to a local person?
You have, I mean, it is not how you generate the yield is up to you. There is no rules for that. It is just, again, it has to be believable. It will be verifiable at the end. Especially because of COVID, obviously, Airbnb stopped. So people turn to long-term rentals. And that means that now it's turning back, but what would be the actual situation for that specific client? We do not know, but it could be Airbnb, it could be like 1 year rental agreement, it could be 2, 3, 4 years rental agreement with somebody if they love to. It depends, and then usually the Airbnb type of arrangements could generate more yield if there is a constant occupancy or there's a good occupancy. Yes, the Airbnb is definitely a possibility. Long-term rental, long-term lease is also a possibility, whichever at that moment looks good as a business proposition.
Julie and I were staying in the Pest side of Budapest, and we are maybe a little over a kilometer from Parliament. It's a pretty good location, and it's a large one-bedroom, probably somewhere around 50 square meters.
I'm going to say it's 60. It's costing us about $1,300,
So,
and this is a little bit closer to the off-season. In the summer, it was a little higher.
yeah, so approximately $1,300 a month for an Airbnb rental, one bedroom, and it's.
And we are paying parking separately.
Yeah, well, parking's pretty tough to get sometimes here in Budapest. Let's switch gears real quickly to the part that you don't normally focus your time on. Somebody with a solid pension, Social Security, if they can prove their income, they can come and obtain residency in most cases here in Hungary?
For, let's say, as a retired person who would like to have a better quality of living, which is ongoing last 20, 30 years, is just definitely something which is very interesting for many Americans. I would say that yes, we would be able to make an introduction to lawyers who are actually handling the pensioner type of residency applications. We ourselves, we made a business decision not to do that. That's a long explanation why. But at the end, we concentrate on a guaranteed investment by residency, investment by citizenship programs. And that is why we also receive quite a lot of inquiries when somebody doesn't want to invest, but is just simply exploring about other immigration possibilities. And we made a business decision, and in such cases, we try to refer that person to reliable lawyers who would be able to answer the questions and who would be able to arrange also, based on the current legal setup, the necessary permissions, depending on whether it's a retirement visa, whether it's a student visa, and so on and so on.
If you were a pensioner and you were considering coming to Hungary, based on our experience, and if you were not going to be working and you wanted to have a decent time of social life, exploring the areas and taking advantage of retirement, I would say as a couple, you probably want to come here with at least around $2,500 a month, assuming you're going to probably be paying about $1,000 towards your rent, but preferably maybe come to $3,000. If you're a single person, you probably want to come here with 2,000 and probably be looking somewhere around 700 to 1,000 a month in rent. Does that sound like it would be a fair
It's
assessment?
definitely a fair assessment, a fair calculation, and you could really confirm that also, that I think Budapest is a lively city.
Mhm.
It could be quiet, but it could be lively. So all in all, it's 2 million people. Not too much, but it's definitely not a small city. Variety also can be fun, not just culturally. In many, many respects, there is variety. So that is why quite a lot of pensioners are moving. Also, I would say that Budapest is safe. You have to be careful, like whenever you go to a place that, yes, there are certain parts which you have to avoid, but that's normal, I guess, everywhere in the world. But otherwise, it's quite safe. And all in all, Hungary loves the foreigners who are doing and who are bringing really money into the system and into the business.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up the size of the city. The network of trains, subways, buses make the city seem small. You can get from one point to the other point pretty quickly.
Yes.
And so while it's large, you can be living on the outskirts of the city, but still be able to take advantage of everything going on downtown because it's such a short bus ride. Maybe it's going to take you 15 minutes or so on a bus or a tram or a subway to get to where you want to be.
It's even connected to little villages outside of it, such as Szentendre. Is that correct? Is that how you would say it? Szentendre?
Well, actually, I lived in Santander for 9 years.
It's beautiful.
Yes, quite a lot of money is spent on public transport in Europe. And Hungary, for example, has a tram line which has the largest traffic all over Europe. Because the trams are running, let's say, every second, every third minute.
Yes, they are.
And they are long. And all in all, they can carry quite a lot of people. And also because the roads are not as wide as in the United States in many places. Therefore, it is basically much cheaper for everybody to use public transport, especially if it is reliable. And also this 15 or 30 minute trip would cost like 80 cents.
Yes.
Yeah, if you come to Budapest and this is where you're making your home in the country of Hungary, can't speak to the whole country because maybe you want to live somewhere else outside of the Budapest. But if you are choosing Budapest as your location, you really don't need a car.
No, in Budapest, I think the public transport is so good that you do not actually need a car. I mean, if you can, but then the parking place and so on could be an additional cost. So I do not think it's really worthwhile. Even I know quite a lot of people who just simply sold their cars because they said it's not just burdensome to pay for the constant parking place and risk a little bit of any kind of mechanical trouble and accidents and so on and so on. So
somebody that's self-employed, generating income elsewhere, and they want to come here, do they have to open up a company and put their other business into the company name here in Hungary to be able to stay?
it has to be believable to the government that they would generate taxes and social security contributions, that they would pay their share. It depends on many things, so that when the immigration officer looks at the file, can I believe that this guy would be really good for our country, or maybe I have my suspicions that he's just promising everything, and that will be the base for the decision. So there is no guarantee. That's why I maybe overemphasize that yes, we are doing the guaranteed one, when basically if the conditions are satisfied, the client is clean, no criminal background, then everything is done.
Well, I hope that the video so far has been very useful for those of you that are considering Hungary. And if you are looking at coming to Hungary or potentially for golden visas or citizenship by investment in other countries, feel free to reach out to our friend Lazlo here in Budapest. He might be able to help you out on those options and opportunities. If you're looking for a pensioner type of visa or other purpose of coming here to Hungary, he'll be glad to refer you to another colleague to get you going and help you out as well. So at this point, Lazlo, thank you for your time. We know it's very valuable. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Remember that Julie and I, we're traveling the world with our two dogs. We're trying to see what it's like to live in other countries, other places, and we're trying to share our experiences and expenses with you and hope that you'll better understand what it's like to live somewhere if you're choosing to leave your home country and live abroad or to travel. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.